An Australian police officer walks up to the front door and knocks, but there's no one that answers. So he sees that there's a mailbox slit through the door and he decides to take a peek. He looks through it, but he can't see what's inside because there's a bed sheet that's in the way. But that isn't a bed sheet. It's the skin of John Price, Katherine Knight's boyfriend whom she just murdered. Hi everyone, I'm Paola Taz and welcome back to Crime Thread, where every case has a thread worth following. Some crimes are so barbaric that they just stick inside your noodle forever and ever and ever. Katherine Knight is one of those cases. She was the first woman in Australia to be sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of her boyfriend, John Price. So, let's grab a drink. I'm doing this bootleg off-brand, zero sugar cherry cola. We decided to give it a try just to save a little money in our pocket. So, cheers. Settle in and let's follow the thread together. Before we begin, I want to give a quick content warning. This case does involve crimes against animals, violence, abuse and cannibalism, and other disturbing subject matter. While I won't be showing any graphic images or explicit content, some of the topics discussed will be difficult to hear, so viewer discretion is advised. So let's start at the beginning, right? Katherine Knight's existence just started off in the most dramatic, scandalous way. Barbara Rohan was married before to a Scottish boy named John Jack Rohan, and they had 4 boys together. She ended up cheating on him with this guy named Kenneth Charles Knight. They were pretty much shunned from their conservative community, and together they ended up having 4 children. Fun fact, Katherine Knight was actually a twin. She was born on October 24th, 1955, in a town called Tenterfield, Australia. Katherine's dad, Ken, was a raging alcoholic who beat his wife repeatedly. I'm talking multiple times a day. Katherine's mom comes to despise men because of this. She decides to relay the message to her own daughter. When Katherine was growing up, she would tell her mom about her hesitancy to have sex, and Barbara would tell her just to put up with it and stop complaining. Later, we find out that Katherine was being sexually assaulted by a lot of members of her family until the age of 11. Surprisingly, it wasn't her dad. Physical and sexual abuse, brutality, and violence was a normal day-to-day thing in her home environment. And at school, she became the bully. She showed signs of extreme aggression. So she ended up dropping out at the age of 15 without being able to read or write. At that point, she starts to pursue a career as an abattoir worker. Side note, I did not know what that meant. If I'm being quite honest with you, I had to go look it up. But it just means that she was someone that got hired at a slaughterhouse to cut out internal organs of animals and debone them. It's kind of interesting for a girl her age. I mean, at 15, you're not really into cutting up animals, but she was. She was excited about it and she thrived doing it. Although she had been temperamental, it's here where her passion for violence and torture really began to take shape. And I'm not saying every person that works at a slaughterhouse is going to become this like violent and torturous person. No, I'm just saying this is her story. It was sad she excelled at her knife work, but also the sounds of animals dying also excited her a ton. Katherine was so proud of her work that she even hung up her first knife set above her bed frame. It's almost like she was foreshadowing what was to come. At the slaughterhouse, she met a man who was just like her father. See, I believe generational curses tend to repeat themselves unless somebody steps up and does a change. Katherine was not that person. So she meets this guy named David Collette. David Collette, yeah, or Shorty Collette in 1973. Some called him Shorty because Katherine was like a whole head taller than her, so it was kind of fitting for their relationship. David was also a raging alcoholic who was prone to fistfighting, and Katherine surprisingly joined him in on all the fistfighting, and eventually she dominated him. Although they had a very toxic and abusive relationship, she convinced him to get married to her in 1974. Barbara, remember, Katherine's mom, pulls him aside on their wedding day and is basically warned him and said, "You better watch this one or she'll kill you, stir her up the wrong way, or do the wrong thing, and you're. On the wedding night, David woke up to Katherine choking him. She was so angry that they didn't have sexual intercourse more than 5 times. They were only able to do it twice, and her parents did it 5 times, so she thought this was like the normal thing to do on a honeymoon. She was so upset, and although she tried to kill him, David still stayed with her for 10 years. By the time Katherine was 20, she was pregnant with their first child. David was having an affair at this time, and he even admitted that he didn't have the best morals, but he also wasn't really comfortable at home anymore, so he decided to start having an affair. Katherine had her baby, Melissa, and 6 weeks later, she tried to kill her husband with a broken beer bottle. Just another one of those days, I guess. David was so done with Katherine. He picks up and leaves. He ran away with a new girlfriend. Katherine was so upset that she takes Melissa into a stroller and they go for a walk. Maybe she was just trying to get her mind off of things, but that really didn't work. When you have a bad thought and you just go over and over and over and over and over in it with your head, it just does more damage than it does good. She was disheveled, crying loudly. She was jerking and pushing the stroller back and forth, and people were really scared that she was going to throw the stroller into oncoming traffic. People called the police on her, and she was taken to St. Elmo Psychiatric Hospital in Tamworth, Australia. She was treated with antidepressants. She was released a couple of weeks later, but there was still no sign of David. Her rage did not go away. It just festered. She decided to one day just pick up her baby and leave it on the train tracks one afternoon, and she just walked away. Luckily, someone was watching her and was able to save the baby before a train came. Meanwhile, she ran into someone's backyard where they kept all the axes and like the yard work, I guess like a she shed, and she just picked up the axe and started swinging it around. How they did not take her kids at this point is beyond me. She was sent back to the psychiatric hospital. When David heard about what was going on, he decided to come back for her. Side note, I also read that he was not having a good time anymore with his relationship because he got his girlfriend pregnant. Like, sir, wrap it up. I can't be sure that the reason that David came back was because he wanted to be with Katherine or because he wanted to be there for his daughter. I can't safely say that because he was pregnant with his girlfriend. Like, that's a sticky situation. Florence, David's mom, and David went to go pick up Katherine, and she was placed in Florence's care. All three of them go to pick up Melissa, who's at Barbara's house. Remember, Barbara is Katherine's mom. Katherine went inside to go get Melissa, and Barbara stormed out of the house and ran to David, who was in the driver's side, and she just started choking him through the window. Katherine sees this and runs up to her mom and punches her in the head, knocking her out cold. Florence was floored. She had never seen people act this barbaric to each other. Half of me wants to say he kind of deserved it, because he did leave his wife and baby, alone, and he just up and left, decided to start a whole new life. But also, she was super abusive. So, leave your thoughts in the comment. I feel like it's an episode of Jerry Springer right now. Anyway, they move away to start fresh. She picks up a job at a slaughterhouse, and he gets a job truck driving. On one occasion, Sandy, who is David's sister, comes over, and she hears crying coming from the bathroom. When she takes a peek inside, she sees Katherine holding the baby under extremely hot water. David got home, and Sandy told her brother, and he said, quote, "Promise me you won't say anything to Kathy tonight because she will kill you in your sleep, and she will most likely kill me." By 1979, their marriage was in trouble. David found Katherine in bed with another man, and she begged for another chance to be with David. They moved on again to another fresh start, and they had another baby. Side note, it seems like a fresh start and another baby is not going to change the situation. It never really does. Katherine was even more violent, and David was scared of her. David was in his right to be scared, as he didn't know what would set his wife off. One night, David came home late from the bar since he was in finals in a dart competition. He thought about his decision to come home, but he decided that win or lose, he'd rather just stay at the bar a little longer. And he did lose when he got home. because he walked right in and he turned around to lock the door and he gets hit in the head with a skillet. Kathy fractured his skull. He staggered to the neighbor's house for help. The police wanted to press charges against Katherine, and Katherine put on the sweetest and best act telling David, please don't think of the children. Unfortunately, David didn't press charges. She could have killed him that night. In 1980, 24-year-old Katherine gave birth to a third child. David was truck driving, and since he was always away, Katherine just would get anxious and more agitated when he was. David woke up one day to a knife at his throat. She was accusing him of cheating. He denied it, maybe to save his life, because we can't say he really was or wasn't, but he denied it. There was so much strain in their relationship that out of the blue, she just left. It's crazy that she just made this decision out of nowhere. To this point, she was showing signs of fear of abandonment, but in reality, it could have been just that she would get angry when people didn't do what she wanted them to do. In 1986, right after her breakup with David, Kathy got together with a local miner named David Sanders. Not miner as in age, as in like miner as in coal miner. I'm going to call him Sanders to not confuse us, me, but also you. Sanders was a hard worker, hard drinker, hard walker, hard talker, which is what Katherine was really attracted to. Hydration break. Okay, Sanders was a former speedway driver and moved in with his dog to the town Katherine was in. Soon, Katherine and Saunders' honeymoon phase fizzled out. One night, Saunders came home and was met with Katherine doing the ironing. Only she didn't run up to him to give him a hug and a kiss as a hello. No, she swung her arm around with the iron in her hand and hit Saunders in the face. For weeks, you could see the mark of the iron on his face, but she wasn't done. She had him by one arm and she was swinging him around, trying to bash his skull in with the iron. And what's the reason for her doing all this? It's because he got home late. The biggest question I had throughout this whole research is why did these two Davids stay with her? Apparently, it's because she was really good in bed. Another occasion, he was trying to leave her and she grabbed his dog and started cradling him. She had a knife in her hand and she just slit the dog's throat. Saunders watched his dog die right in front of his eyes. Katherine was showing him how far she will go to hurt him. Saunders tried to leave many times, but he would just come back. In June 1988, Katherine and Saunders had a baby together. Katherine's behavior was just getting more and more extreme. So one day, Saunders told Katherine he was going to go visit a friend in another town. But he wasn't going to go visit a friend in another town. He didn't plan to come back. He up and left and got a new job in Newcastle, Australia. She was so upset, and she told her daughter that her dad died, and that's why he wasn't around. And the pattern continues. In 1991, she meets a new guy named John Chillingsworth. She then gives birth to her son, her only son, 11 months after they met. There was more abuse, and it all ends in abandonment. She pretty much left her son with him and left. Ran off with another guy. She was cheating on John with another John. John Price. Again, same patterns arise. There's a honeymoon phase and then a toxic, abusive behavior that follows. He had scars from where she would stab him and hit him. Johnny had 2 daughters from a previous marriage, and they seemed to like Katherine. Now, Kathy had a reputation for being a violent woman. That didn't stop John Price from moving in with her, though. But in 1998, they got into the fattest fight. Katherine wanted Price to marry her. He basically said no. He said, quote, "You're only good for sex, so get used to it." Which is kind of crazy, but well, everyone has a boundary. She got angry and he kicked her out of her house. She thought this house was rightfully hers. She tried to hurt him by telling one of his daughters that she was adopted and that she didn't belong to him. She also took videos of items that he stole from his work. It was like out-of-date medical kits. She sent the videos to her boss and the police. Price was fired on the spot, and that was the job that he had for 17 years, which is crazy work. Not crazy the part of him getting fired, because actions do have consequences, but the part where she went to that length to film something and turn it in to the police and his boss. They semi-broke up, but some weeks passed and he went right back to her, which his daughters thought was really strange and crazy. I thought the same thing. I was like, why would you go back? My jaw was on the floor. The kids go back to school and she's home alone a lot of the times. It said that she would spend a ton of time watching horror films, like an obscene amount of horror film, in her lounge room. Hydration time. Man, it's getting me choked up. That room was decorated with all types of taxidermy, knives, farm tools, country things, and animal skulls. She surrounded herself with death. She felt like death was art. On Sunday, before Price's death, they had a massive fight, which the police had to be involved in. On Monday, Price went to work and he showed his 2 coworkers where Kathy had previously stabbed him. On Tuesday, he told his boss that he needed to go to the courthouse to, quote, see what I can do to get this crazy bitch away from me. He was told that he had to wait 3 weeks to go to court. He thought he'd probably be dead by then. Little did he actually know that he was halfway through his last day here on Earth. His coworkers told him not to go home, to go somewhere else, to sleep anywhere else. He was scared that Kathy would go after his kids if he didn't show up. That day, Katherine bought a black nightgown and went to film their kids, basically saying goodbye to them. She went to Price's house at 11 p.m. and found him asleep. She went to go take a shower and put on that new black nightie. They had sexual intercourse and watched a movie, and then she attacked. The next day, his coworkers were worried of John since he was always on time. Actually, he was always the first one to be there. But that day, he didn't arrive to work. They called him and there was no answer. They all knew. So the locals gathered around his house. The police went inside and were shocked to see the scene. Kathy had stabbed Price 37 times. There was blood on the light switch. They assumed that he must have gotten up to try to get away. They noticed blood swipes all through the hallway, and they were getting progressively lower, so it seemed like he was losing his energy and getting weaker. He did make it to the front door because there was blood marks on the screen door, but they saw bloody drag marks. It seemed like Katherine got to him and just pulled him back. His torso was found in the lounge room, and that room had the most blood stains everywhere, all over. Investigators believe that's where she skinned him, due to all the blood that was all over the floor. He still had his head attached to him, since there was an outline of where his body was laying. They believe his head was also cut off there, and that she must have picked up his head and taken it to the kitchen, because there was a ton of blood drips from the lounge room to the kitchen. In the kitchen, it was assumed that she cut up a big piece of his back muscle into 5 separate steaks. She cooked his body, including his head, and she had 2 plates set out for Price's daughters, which had human meat and vegetables on them. There was a note that said something along the lines of, if I can't have your father, no one can. The timeline that investigators came up with is that after all this, she took a shower and changed into some clothes. And according to John's bank statements, she took out $1,000. To this day, no one knows where those $1,000 are. Kathy then comes back home. She swallows all these pills and she falls unconscious. News quickly spread. People automatically knew. It was no surprise to any of the family members. For 6 days, Katherine was at Musselbrook in Madeline Hospital. Just like Mackenzie Shirella and everybody else, she claimed that she has no memory of what happened. During her interrogation, she remembered one stabbing, but that happened 6 months ago and it was done with a fork. The police was surprised by her demeanor. They said she looked like a little old librarian. Like, how could she have mustered up to do all the things that she did in that house? In court, they showed a video of what the crime scene looked like. People said that it was the most horrific thing they've ever seen. The police said that the skin looked like a wetsuit. It took a little bit to realize what it was, since it was hanging on a butcher's hook in the doorway. The detective said that it just slid right off when they pulled it out. The video showed the kitchen area where a detective showed the stove. He took the lid off of the pot, and inside was John Price's head just staring back at him. It was traumatizing for the officers that discovered the scene. A lot of them went to go get psychiatric help because of it. The psychiatrist did some tests on Katherine and determined that she was not suffering from mental illness. They believed she knew right from wrong. She was trying to play the insanity card, but made one big mistake, thankfully. She told her brother that she was going to kill John and that she was going to get away with it. She said, "I'm going to do it in a way to make them think I am crazy." Her brother came forward with all that information and gave a witness testimony. Her brother said Katherine told him 3 weeks before John Price died. On October 18, 2001, Katherine Knight pleaded guilty to murdering John Price. She was sentenced to life in prison. And that is the story of Katherine Knight. Do you feel like Katherine was misdiagnosed? I feel like something was wrong with her. Something mentally was definitely wrong with her, but she did know right from wrong. What are your thoughts? Like, comment, and subscribe to keep up to date to the latest episode of Crime Thread. And as always, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.